Now, this lesson will be a seated lesson. And I thought about it. Sometimes I think it's nice when we sit in a chair that is more squared off. However, this lesson was created when someone was stuck at airports forever and ever. So they used whatever chairs there were at an airport, which are not very structurally beneficial, but they used that. And I would think maybe someone could use a table to sit on, or you can try on the floor, but you'll see where the limits will be. But I would say you could maybe be on a sofa. So you just think, because this lesson was created when some trainer, I know who it is, but you know, so was stuck. He still does a lot of international travel, and he had hours on end at airports. So what do you do? Now, listen to your breathing, because our breathing is the first indication when we're holding, we're stressed, we're not comfortable. So you just listen. Notice your contact, where you make contact, where there's space. And as you rest, eyes can be closed, they can be opened. What you're comfortable with. Feel the contact you make on the floor. And then bring your feet to stand. Feel the movement that occurs throughout you through this transition of one leg, then the other. And now what changed? Where are the placement of your feet in relationship to each other, in relationship to your pelvis, your shoulders? Are they comfortably distanced apart? And what changed in your contact? And then slowly roll your head a little from one side to the other. And then decide to which side will you reorganize yourself to roll to a side, come to sit, and bring yourself to stand. And then for those that are standing, you can walk around a little bit. You can readjust your camera. Yes, thank you. And then you come to sit in your chair. Whether it's a table, a stool, a chair, or as I even shared, maybe for somebody they're sitting on their sofa. When you're going to explore, you bring your sitting bones, those sits bones, ischials, ischial tuberosities, all these different names for them. You bring them so that you become more aware that you're sitting on your sitting bones. And then find where you place your feet, that comfortable distance apart, just like you scanned when you were lying on your back and you brought your feet to stand. This is your neutral position, resting. But in the rests, if you prefer to lean back in your chair, get up and walk, or return to the floor to rest, these are your options. Now, in this lesson today, there are going to be similarities and differences from the Coachman's seated lessons, part 1 and 2 of earlier this week. Lean forward so that you can place your elbows on your knees, and then cup your hands in such a way that your palms are together, but you open the hands, and lower and rest your chin in your cupped hands. Now, there's got to be an easier way than what I'm witnessing right now. So sit up. And just don't worry about putting your chin in your hands. I'm going to compare something. Bring in front of you your two hands not touching. That's it. And then let the hands look at each other. Then bend the hand so that the wrists bend back and put the heels, the wrists together. That's it. Now, put your elbows on your knees and put your chin in the webbing of your two hands. And your hands, your fingers can rest along your cheekbones. Does that make more sense? And we could call this the thinking pose. We would call this, I'm stuck at the airport and I'm tired. Where do you look? Are you looking down at the floor? And just listen to how you're balancing yourself. How you're balancing yourself. And throughout the lesson, you'll begin to consider or discern where your feet are standing. Now imagine you're sitting like this for a long time. Like I said, at the airport, you're waiting. How long do I have to wait? And you rest your chin in your hands with the elbows on both knees, supporting you. Blessings. So in a sense, your arms with your hands and your chin have created a triangle. You could think of the apex, the point of the triangle where your chin is, and your two wrists or the heels of your hands are cupped. Each arm, each forearm to elbow to the knee is part of the isosceles triangle, the two sides. And then you just create an image of an imaginary line from your knees, elbows, across to the other one. There's your triangle. Now feel for your skeletal support so that if you fell asleep in this position, you wouldn't fall off. And I can honestly tell you, this happened to me many decades ago. I can share the story later, but I didn't fall. I was asleep until I woke up. Does your back feel round or long? Are your elbows comfortably resting on your knees? Are your legs a comfortable distance apart? What are your knees doing? Are they leaning inwards or falling outwards or directly solid? And then where do your eyes and your head look? Are they looking up, down, forward? These are possibilities. And this is your new neutral position. And from here, your first test move. In this position, feel where your feet are, listen to your breathing, slowly, while holding your chin in your cupped hands, raise yourself up so that your elbows leave your knees, and you can erect yourself, and then you can let your hands go. That's it. Now, how easy was that for you? How did you breathe? How comfortable? And then go ahead and organize yourself to return to the reference movement of your elbows resting on your knees, skeletal support. Beautiful. Great. Now, how light or heavy does this erecting of your spine and head feel? Is the movement smooth? Do you hold your breath at any time? Do you round or arch your back? And where do you move first from? So slowly begin to play with this reference movement, this test movement of elevating yourself to come up erect. And then how do you breathe and you return? Where do you initiate from? There could be multiple places you initiate from. I mean, I could give a litany of your feet, your breath, your eyes, your head, each vertebra of your spine, rounding or arching. Play with it. This test movement of how you Erect yourself to come up. How do you breathe? Did you inhale? And then when you're ready to come back into the position. That's it. Now stay here, and I'm going to give you a second reference movement. We're going to call this like the thinker's position. Both elbows are on your knees, your chin is cupped in your hands, and gently, the left elbow rests. Doesn't mean that there isn't some relationship of movement, but gently slide your right elbow on your right thigh upwards in the direction of your hip joint. Go comfortably, slow, no straining, and then you slide the right elbow back. Good. And play with that. You're looking for a movement that's smooth. It feels like it's gliding, or does it feel jerky or forceful? And then moving the elbow and the arm in the direction of your right hip. Notice where you look. Where do your eyes go? And how do you breathe? From when you slide the right elbow up the right thigh, towards the hip, this is where it's comfortable. And then you slide it back to rest on the right knee. And feel there's a pivoting in the left elbow, isn't there? It's not that it's sliding, but it's doing something to allow, because your chin is still being held between both hands. That's it. There you go. And just get comfortable with this. So what else comes along? Where does your head go? Does it turn, and in which direction? Where do your eyes look? What about your sternum, a chest plate? Is it more a sense of folding and rounding through your spine? Or arching? Well, how do you do it? And when you do it, is there any action in your feet? Does one foot depress or weight a little bit more? What sitting bone do you move to? And so this is the second test movement, but now you're playing with it. How do you breathe? When do you exhale? Do you think to alternate the direction your eyes look to feel what gives you more ease to this movement? Do they look down? Do they look up? Do they look at the horizon, to the right? And how deep are you pressing into your thigh? Instead of a heavy, oh, my thigh's getting sore, my elbow, could it glide gently, lightly, without creating any discomfort of the trailing elbow? Notice what happens to the weight in the left elbow. Reciprocally, is it helping to support you? And if the left elbow is resting on the left knee, is there some weight, force, that depresses into the left foot? Maybe more than the right. Different. And then whenever you're ready to come to a pause, bring the elbows back to the neutral and go back to the first test movement, that reference movement. How do you organize in your breath, the spine to come up and erect? And each time you do this, you get a feeling of, is my spine longer? Do I feel more upright? How did I breathe? What did my feet do? And now return to the position. Stay with the exploration of the right elbow on the right thigh, but gently begin to explore sliding up the lateral or outside aspect of your right thigh. So the right elbow will always maintain some contact to the right thigh, but now we're saying shift it a little bit more to the outer edge. That's it. And then you come back. Good. And you just notice, well, how much does the left elbow have to move? Can it be like a lever that stays there and I turn around? Or does the left elbow slide as much? Does it need to? And then as you're playing with these variations, notice how you breathe, where you look, what's happening in your spine. And as you do the movement towards the right hip, but the outer edge, and back towards the knee, where do you sit in your pelvis? How do you shift your weight? And you go slow enough, doesn't have to be big, but you go slow enough with each variation to feel how you're doing this. You can always play with the direction of your head and your eyes to feel which makes this movement easier and simpler, especially when we're now exploring the outer edge of my right thigh. Yeah, maybe you want to reposition where your feet are. And then you take a rest. Go back to that reference movement, the first one of how you erect yourself. Are you getting better at this? Oh, how I lower and I lift. And each time you lower and you lift, think of all the different places you can initiate from, not just where you started, but think of other ways, maybe less familiar. Now you're going to come back and you're going to explore again, elbows to the knees, cupping the hands to hold the chin. Just feel, is this comfortable now? Oh, do you give the weight of your head over to your hands, through the forearms, into the knees, down the legs, and into the feet? And where are you in your pelvis? Did you roll where in relationship of your sitting bones? Did you roll to the back, right on top of the rockers, or forward? And now begin to explore again, but we're going to take another trail. It's the right elbow again and the right thigh. The inside of the right thigh moving in the direction of the inside of the hip joint or the pubic area. Notice how different this is. And what do? Where do your eyes and face turn to? Yeah, is there a shift? Now all of a sudden, is it like, am I looking to the right, or am I looking down, or am I looking to the left? And start to explore, where are you sitting in your pelvis? Now that you're exploring the inside edge of the right thigh with the right elbow, where do you sit in your pelvis? Are you more on the right side, the left side? And what does this do to the quality of the movement? That's beautiful. Now, what's happening in your spine now? Is there a little bit of a twist? Where are the back of your vertebra pointing to? And do the knees move at all? Now, if you start to feel that you're rising up off of your heels onto the balls of your feet, the question is, might I sit a little closer to the edge of the chair? Because in ideal, you want your feet planted to the floor with the full foot standing on the floor. And feel the difference. That's it. And you can play where you look. As long as some aspect of the right elbow arm is tracing along the inner right thigh, you made the contact. But do the hands come apart? Are they? That's it. These are the constraints. And then come up and rest for a moment. In fact, Do you want to just rest in your chair? Do you want to walk around? Do you want to lie on the floor? So in this, you're constantly comparing for yourself where something feels easier and simpler. What is it that you do? And then we have to stop and say, well, if it's easier and simpler, how am I organizing in my pelvis, my spine, my head, my eyes, my breathing? This is where we start to look at all these other places. Now, we explored the right elbow, exploring the front of the right thigh, the outer lateral edge of the right thigh, and then the inner edge. So, lower down, elbows on the knees, hands are cupped with your chin. And now you have 3 different directions. So return to the position of the lesson and now explore the sliding of the right elbow. And once consider the center from the knee up towards the hip and back. And then slide over to the outer edge of the right thigh and slide up that way and back. And then when you come back to the knee, maybe just scoop around to the inner edge of the right thigh and slide up that way. And then start to play with, well, if I can slide around the knee to change my trajectory from the outer edge or to the center or the inner edge, could you also do that when the right elbow is higher up closer to your hip joint? And you just change where your elbow is directed, center, outer edge, inner edge, that way. So this would be like an oval circling around your right thigh with your right elbow. That's it. That's it. When you come back, maybe scoop around the knee and slide to the inner edge all the way up. That's it. So you're making, it's not a circle because it's an oval. Feel what's happening in your feet, your pelvis, your breathing, your spine. Is there some side bending, some rounding, some twisting? And then reverse that circling. Just change the trajectory, the direction. That's it. And then you come back into that first reference movement of how you erect yourself and sit up in your chair and rest. Now let's take another trail. It's still going to be the right elbow and the right leg, but I assure you we're going to do the left also. But the reason why I'm only staying so far with one side is because it's really potent to feel what's different, the right to the left. Come back into the position with the elbows resting on the knees and the hands cupping your chin, thinker's pose. And feel the weight through the elbows, through the knees, down the shin bone into your heel. Now slowly, begin to slide the right elbow, but trail it down over the kneecap, down the center of your shin bone, wherever it goes comfortably. So now you're sliding down the foreleg. That's it. And then you inhale, you come back. Now feel what starts to happen in your pelvis, in your spine. That's it. And you might notice that your right knee does something. Does it want to tilt in or out, or does it just stay neutral? What makes it easier? What if you tried turning your head a little bit? Would that help? It's still the center of the shin. Do you want to look to the right? Do you want to look to the left? Maybe you don't want to, you just want to look down. Maybe you want to look forward. Think of your spine, what it's doing. That's it. And then you come back and then start to slide down the outside edge of your right foreleg. Only where it's easy. That's it. Notice what you want to do. Do you want to do anything in your right hip and your right knee? Do you want to rock it out, keep it in neutral, or tilt the knee in? Where does it make it easier? Is there some side bending happening? Are you depressing into one foot more than the other? Is your pelvis shifting weight a little bit? And then you come back, and now that third direction is sliding the right elbow towards the inside of the right calf, foreleg. And feel what you do here. Do you adapt the movement or your structure to facilitate? Well, that's simpler and easier. Does the knee rock in or out, or just stay put? How do you breathe? That's it. And all the while, feel that the left elbow has got some contact with the left knee. It's a foundation for you. And notice how different you organize yourself based on where you intend to slide. Yep, rest whenever you need to. And is there some rounding and arching of your pelvis, your spine? When is it where you're directing, lengthening, sinking, rounding, opening? Now let that go for a moment. Just rest. When you're ready, you come back into the position, thinker's pose. Elbows to knees, chin cupped in the hands. There's your triangle. Now, your knee joint, it's where you're resting on the top portion of the thigh knee joint, the whole knee, the patella, and below it into the shin. So what if I asked you to start making circles around your knee with the right elbow? That's it. So doesn't it have a little bit of all of these directions we were doing? And feel where you support and help. And then change the direction. So we question, which way did I start? Am I making a large circle to encompass the entire structure of my knee? Or am I just thinking to around the patella bone, a much smaller circle? And feel what you do in your pelvis, your ribs, your head, and your eyes. And then a couple of times, reverse the direction, and then reverse back to the first direction you did to feel, oh, I'm getting it. I allow me to move. My knees move, my spine moves, I'm breathing. Good. And then take a full rest. Maybe come up, walk around, lie on your mat if you want, or lean back in your chair. Now, do you feel a difference between your right side and your left? And that's what's important, what you notice. Another can notice something. And if it's still a little too subtle or not quite obvious enough, it's okay. But by asking the questions, subtly we start to notice, oh, maybe it's in your breathing. Maybe it's, think now for a function. If you were at a restaurant and you're sitting in your chair at the table, you can think that I might push the chair a little bit back, but you dropped your napkin or a fork. Where did you drop it? To the outside of your leg, to the inside of your leg, in front of your foot, behind? How would you reach down with your right hand to get your napkin or your fork? What would you do? Yeah. Yeah. Now, what happens if you drop the fork in between your feet? What would you do? That's it. So we're talking about how we function. Now, let that go. Put both elbows on your knees, cup your chin. And now begin with the left elbow on the left knee sliding through the center of the thigh toward your left hip, up. No, so let me clarify. Let's do the first direction we did on the right. Slide the left elbow on the front of your left thigh toward your left hip joint, toward your pelvis. All right, so that's not clear yet. Come back. No, so what I see is the elbow is going to the outside edge, the inside edge of the left knee. I want the elbow, the left elbow to stay on the front of the left knee, and now slide the left elbow on the front of the thigh in the direction of your pelvis. And back. That's it. That's the movement. And go ahead and do that again. Good. After you've done 3 of that trail, when you come back, then keep the left elbow on the left knee and do it with the right elbow on the right knee, sliding up to the right hip joint. That's it. And back. And then alternate. Do the left. Feel how you organize. What do you have to do? Where do you look? Is one foot pushing more than the other? And then, after you've done that, if you need to rest, you use that first reference movement of how you erect yourself to come to sit. If you feel uncomfortable like this, is your head hanging more into your hands, onto your knees, through the forelegs, into the heels? What was the next trail we did with the right leg? It was the outer edge. That's right. Beautiful. There you go. As if you were scratching or rubbing the outer edge of your thigh because it itched a little bit. Beautiful. And then, anytime you need to rest, you do. Start to explore the inner area of your left thigh with the left elbow. All the way towards the pubis. That's it. Where it goes comfortably. Feel where you have to move your torso, ribs, chest, the spine. When is your spine feeling more round? When might it feel more arching? Or maybe you go, no, I don't feel any arching. Just notice. And then remember how we would circle around the left knee, so that once you could be going to the outer edge, up to the hip joint. All right, if you want to circle the knee, that's fine. Circle the knee. Yeah. The order doesn't have to be the same. And feel, where do you keep the weight so that the left elbow is light to circle around the left knee? And then reverse the circling of the left elbow around the left knee. Good. And then just pause for a moment, maybe come back to the reference movement where you erect yourself and sit. Just be grateful you're not stuck in an airport for hours on end, just having to spend the night there. There are many people that this is what's happening to them with travel. Yeah. And now come back into the thinker's pose, elbows on knees, hands cupped so that your chin rests in the palm. There you go. That's it. Keep repositioning. I need my pelvis to be closer to the edge of the chair. Feel how you really are weighted. Could you imagine falling asleep like this? Because I've done it. And now begin to traverse with your left elbow the different aspects of your left thigh. There's the inner edge, there's the center, there's the outer edge, and start to explore that your left elbow is drawing an oval, an oblique shape around the area of your left thigh. Feel where you have to circle around the hip joint or the knee. Where do you have to move? When do you press into the left foot? When do you press into the right foot? When do you move the knee to help? Is it just, no, I'm not going to move the knee and it's only the elbow and you have to move your shoulder girdle and your torso? But you could move both. Everything could be movable. And then reverse the circle. Ah, have you lost your right elbow on the right knee? In the exploration, was that forgotten, that constraint forgotten? So give it a rest. Come away from it. Rest if you want to lie on the floor or lean back or walk. Notice when you walk, do you feel more upright? What do you feel? We can suggest things, but I know you're curious. What do you notice? And then come back to sit. Now remember, there was another pattern. This time we're going to take the left elbow on the left knee, but it's the thinker's pose to start. And start to explore sliding from the top of the left knee with the left elbow down the center, through the center of the patella knee bone, down the center of the shin bone, and then back, as if you're trying to draw a line. And you come back. That's it. And once that gets familiar, slide the left elbow over to the outer edge, the left side of the knee, and then slide along the outer edge of the left knee down the left calf muscle, where it goes. Do you want to tilt the left knee out or in, or move your torso? That's it. Remember, there's a constraint with the right elbow on the right knee. Do we give that up? Oh, yeah, I forget that. So it will constrain you. So only go where it feels there's an elasticity and ease, not striving. Then remember, you have the inside edge of the left foreleg calf muscle. That's it. Good. Are certain directions easier for you? Yeah. Now start to make a circle around the left knee with the left elbow. Notice how you're covering all of them. The thigh, front of the thigh, the inside of the thigh, the inside of the foreleg to get around the knee to the outer side. You're touching all of these trajectories, the front, the outer edge, the inner edge. Are you making a big circle to encompass the whole knee joint? It's a big structure. Or are you thinking a small circle just around the patella? That funny little, it's called a sesamoid bone, like a sesame seed, and it grows in the tendon of the front of the thigh muscle. Is a small circle easier or a big circle? Good, beautiful. And then you can rest. By all means, rest. I guarantee you, my colleague who was doing this at the airport rested a lot. He might have gotten up and walked around the airport and then come back. And remember, the chairs at airports, they're not great. So he had to figure out how to balance himself. Whatever structure you have, whatever place you have, but you can recognize where this might be a little dicey doing seated on the floor. I would think that an option, because I know other people are going to get this recording, would be to sit on the floor with your pelvis elevated underneath some yoga blocks or bolsters, but keep your legs out to the side, like V'd out. That might be an option. You would have to use the back of your heels instead of the full foot to press. But I'm always thinking of ways to accommodate when somebody says, I don't like to do those seated lessons, because they're good for us. Now come back, thinker's pose, and start to alternate. You've done them both sides, right and left. Whatever you want to do on the right, then when you complete that, do it on the left. So once the right side, then the left. And then you pick another trail on the right side. That's it, beautiful. And then the left, so that you feel, do I do it similar on each side or are there differences? Cover every one of the terrains we explored individually. And now you're alternating, doing this side, comparing with that side. Remember, we circled around an entire thigh. Well, that's a knee, that's great. You know the patterns, so play with them. And the order, that's up to you. Good, beautiful. Is there any part of you that's not moving? Are you continually breathing? Are you also balancing yourself on the edge of your chair? Good. That's it, beautiful. You don't want to miss a spot. Look at how much different this is now. The range of, that means what's happening in your spine. How much more malleable are you becoming everywhere? Lovely. And take a rest whenever you need to rest. Yeah. Okay. Now, one more pattern. What if I said both elbows are going to do the same movement at the same time. So you come into thinker's pose. The elbows together are going to be sliding either up the center of the thigh or down, the outer side of the thigh or down, the inner side of the thigh or down, but both are doing it at the same time. So that's it. Yes, beautiful. Feel what your spine does. When do you want to move your knees? That's it. Lovely. Everything you do, you want to do simultaneously together. That's it. What part of you is not moving? And in each of these variations, we did only the right side first, then we did the left. I started to have you alternate between the right and the left. That's it. Good. Good, beautiful. And now just come and rest to sit. You could have rested when you wanted to. I would definitely think that grandkids, kids would enjoy this. And we just stopped playing like kids. We need to keep playing like kids. There's a saying, you don't use it, you lose it. And that's true. So keep using it. Okay. One more. When you're ready, come into the thinker's pose. Now, what if you thought to direct your elbows simultaneously on your thighs or off of your thighs into thin air in front of you? Think about it. Just keep playing with this, forward and back, rocking through your spine and your pelvis. Eventually, maybe the elbows could slide off of the knees as if they were parallel to the ground in the air, reaching. That's it. That's one way the test move to come up, right? Does your spine go from rounding to arching then? When does it round? When does it arch? There. And bring the head up. That's right. Bring the head all the way up as the reference movement. All the way up. All the way up. That's it. Keep going. That's right. You cut. That's it. And then fold yourself and come back down. You're always tapping into the thighs, the knees, the shins with your elbows. And if I said, keep sliding a little bit down the knees to the shins, when do you feel your pelvis might want to lift off of the chair? Oh, don't force anything. You just keep coming back. Slide down and slide back up all the way to the hip joints. And slide down. Good. Now, between these two directions, both are viable. If I said, which one do you feel it's possible, not difficult, that you could continue the elbows in those trajectories, that you could come up to stand? Just like you've rehearsed so many times how to come up and erect yourself sitting, which of these two patterns do you think would facilitate you coming to stand and then straightening your knees? And then the arms go into the air. That's it. Beautiful. There we go. And then fold and bend and sit back down. And slide up the thighs. Excellent. And do that another time or two. Whether you come to erect yourself in the chair or you fold and round and slide and extend and come up. Beautiful. And the next time you come to stand in this easy, elegant way, then free your arms, come to stand, have a walk, and notice what a dear colleague of mine played with, learned with, when he had too much time sitting and waiting at an airport.